think I might have mentioned this saw before. It's a flip saw, Elu flip saw, which you can use as a chop saw or you can use as a bench saw. And I haven't been using it. I used my friend Derek's saw to cut all the timber that I needed for the boat, because I didn't have this one running, because the belt broke on it quite some time ago, and I never replaced it, because every time I went to look about a belt online they were like crazy expensive with shipping on top of that. But this belt I looked for online. I bought a belt, and I bought it on eBay, and the belt was €27 including shipping. And for some strange reason, eBay sent me some kind of an offer code which gave me €15 off. So I got it for €12. So I failed attempt at using what was supposed to be the technical solution off of the internet. Some choice swear words and a bit of head scratching. I eventually resorted to the two old standbys, brute force and ignorance, and hooked one end of the belt on, lined up the grooves on the other guide, and just physically forced it on with my two hands. So it's on, it's working, and now I have a functioning chop saw. I'm not knocking it, it worked, that's the main thing. So I spoke previously about the fact that my father was the one with the working skills, and he lives in Lanzarote. And he sent me a mystery package. Wow. Right, so set of router bits, and 1/4" router bits, and these are like really good quality ones. Oh, some Stanley socket wrenches. Drives. Oh. Oh, very good. Oh, wrong way up. Okay, so there are more router bits. Oh, definitely not going to run out of router bits. That's a little screwdriver thing. Yeah, you mentioned you were sending this thing for handy doing, you have to join things in small tight areas, which obviously the boat is. And it's like a little ratchet screwdriver. I'm sure that'll come in useful. There's some other kind of cutting bits. I'm assuming there's some kind of woodwork bit for cutting holes in something, like a spade bit, only very small. There's more router bits. This is a biscuit cutting bit. That's what these are. Yeah, it's for making biscuit joints. So that's a biscuit cutting bit and some biscuits. Right. That's why that was stuck in there. What is this now? That's the top. Right. Even more fancier. They get fancier and fancier as they go into the box. The router bits. another kind of cutting bit there as well, I'm not sure what that one is. And yet more router bits. These are individually packed ones, these are really expensive ones. That's great, thanks very much, Dad. I'll try and put it all to good use. Right, as soon as this has turned into a bit of a tool show and tell to a large extent, I may as well take this opportunity to show you my most recent car boot sale acquisition. Regular viewers to the channel will know that I frequent the local car boot sale looking out for bargains and usually find them. In a previous video I showed this cedar timber that I got. Now I have a chop saw, hopefully soon to be rip saw, bench saw that I can use to process that timber. And another thing you need is an electric plane. So I was at the car boot sale a couple of weeks ago and saw this sort of a stall, obviously a household. It wasn't like a vendor, it was like just somebody who was there for the day, and a woman and a daughter, and I saw this sitting there and it was like completely out of order with all the other household stuff they had. But I went over and went to ask how much they wanted for it. Now with these things at car boot sale, sometimes it's strange. Sometimes you get stuff for great bargains, other times people want crazy prices that reflect the price they paid for it originally when it was bought. And that's not what car boot sales are about. So I went over half expecting this to be, you know, priced way out of what I was prepared to pay. It's an Elu electric planer, and it's a, let me see, it's a model MFF81 Type 2, and the woman said that her husband had bought it to use it for doing work in their attic. He'd used it for that, and then he put it down and left it in the shed and never been touched since. And really, it reflects that. You can see where it was just used as literally bits of, the last bits of shavings of the planed still inside the spout of it here. A wee bit of shavings caught in there on the intake on it, and that's it. There's no wear, no marks, no nothing on the body of it. The blades of it are absolutely immaculate. There's not, they're not even, you know, a slightest edge taken off them. They literally got used. It literally got used for an hour or two, and that's it. The original price tag is still on this, which was £190. So this is, I'll show you. This is a pretty old piece of equipment. It's pre-Euros here in Ireland. So I asked her how much she wanted for it, and she said €40, and I said no, I'm not paying that. So I offered her 30, and she said, "Oh, give me 35," and I said no, 30, and started to walk away. She said, "Okay, I'll take 30." So I got it for €30, and it's as I say, it's pretty much immaculate. If I used it once, it'd be in worse condition probably than this. So it has a few attachments and things with it. I'm not really sure about all of them. Different guides and things or whatever, but it'll definitely do the planing job and stuff on prepping timber that I want to do. So that's tool time out of the way. Work on the boat has been kind of hit and miss because just, you know, weather is a bit changeable, but it's not the real main reason. The main reason is life has kind of got in the way in the last while. Stuff with family and kids and all that, and the time of year that's in it. So I'm pretty much come to the realisation that I'm not going to get the boat in the water this year. That's just it. There's no point. I could try and make it bust and get it to the point that it go in the water, literally go in the water now. But it's not ready. It's not finished. The inside's not finished. So I really don't see the point. I also am going to start working, hopefully soon, on a trailer for the boat, because at the moment the boat doesn't have a way of getting to the water. So the trailer is going to be part of the plan as well. So I've more or less resigned myself to the fact that it's going to be next year before I get the boat in the water. I've brought the boat on to the point now that it's pretty much weatherproof. The next thing to do with regards to that is get the polycarbonate windows put in. We get the polycarbonate windows put in. To all intents and purposes, I can take the cover off the boat and leave it out in the weather, and it's not going to be harmed by anything. So, but I probably will still leave it covered. But it'll be watertight completely, so there'll be no deterioration in the boat over the winter. Whether it rains or snows or whatever it does, it'll make absolutely no difference to the boat. And that's, you know, a great thing, because, you know, it's brought it on that far. I'm really happy with the work I've done on the boat so far. I have a load of components and bits of the boat still that are, you know, either finished or partway finished, that are all moving along, even though it doesn't really seem like it. So I'm happy with the progress, and I'm just not going to make an issue of the fact that it's not going to be finished this year. That's the reality of doing boat building or boat renovation. You set a time frame, you work to it, and then you realise that it's not going to happen, and you're just going to have to keep working until it's done, and that's just the reality of it. And if you're not prepared to accept that, then you really shouldn't be taking on a project like building or renovating a boat, because if you're the kind of person who's going to be disillusioned, disappointed by that, it's really not for you. But anyone else that feels they can do that, pretty much anyone can do this. You know, it's just a matter of applying yourself to the task, breaking it down to individual tasks, and moving those on one at a time. And before you know it, you've a boat. So that's Dave's philosophy corner for this episode. Okay, so I spoke about this HDPE plastic before. I'm going to use a number of blocks to replace a piece of teak that were on the boat previously, which rotted. For example, for the gudgeons and pintles for the rudder to hang it, and also for making the mast step in here within the mast tabernacle. Now, joining this stuff together to laminate it, epoxy won't work, and that's well documented, and anyone that does a bit of epoxy work will know you can use plastic and polythene and cling film, or saran wrap as you call it in America, to separate pieces that you're actually laminating together. So if you wanted to make two parts to fit together but didn't want them to stick together in the initial casting of them, you could overlay between one piece and the other with the plastic wrapping to stop them from bonding together. So obviously something that's made out of polythene is not going to bond together with epoxy. So I was thinking about how would I do this, and it struck me that in plumbing you use an adhesive to join PVC pipes or ABS pipes together. It works with both. So why wouldn't it work with this stuff, which is very similar at least, if not exactly the same. So with that in mind, I have some adhesive here, which is, I suppose, various brands of it. This one is called Fuse Tight, and it's a solvent cement for rigid PVC pipes and fittings. So that being the logic, I tried using it on, first of all I made a test piece, which was just a small piece, two little offcuts, and joined them together. Now to prepare, I sanded both sides to give it a mechanical key and to take the sort of the natural sort of sheen that it has on it off it. And it's bonded it really well together. So good that I've actually made the pieces for mounting the rudder as well, and joint laminate those together using it. And it says what it says on, does what it says on the tin. It actually fuses it together. It kind of melts both surfaces and bonds them together. So it kind of melts the plastic into each other, and all intents and purposes a plastic weld, which is fantastic. So I'm going to use that on this here now. I've just prepped these two sides here now by sanding them. And these are the pieces that are the inserts for going into the tabernacle here for the mast step. This is one that I've sort of manufactured by cutting and drilling and chiseling out to make it fit in where the head to the bolt's going to be for bolting it through. It's going to fit in like that, and then this one here is going to fit on top of that. So obviously these are going to be trimmed off to shape, but just for now I'm just going to glue these together and fit them into place. So we're going to stick these two together to have one solid block that thick to work with. say, both these are sanded off to make them have a key, a tooth as they call it. And just going to get the adhesive onto them now. Put the adhesive on both sides and spread it out evenly. Okay, so we just leave that alone for a few hours to set and come back to that. Well, this is the original material that the spacer was made out of, the teak that was on the boat originally. And this is the new stuff. I purposely made it wider to throw the rudder a little bit further back off of the transom of the boat. So this one here, as you saw in the old one, it was quite a bit smaller, but I think it'll look better with two of them the same, even though they're, you know, that one's central. I think they'll still look better if the two of them are uniform size. Just mount that one in the very centre. Yeah, so I've made these, I made two pieces for underneath the tabernacle onto the cabin top. Now I don't know if I'm going to need two or if I'm going to need one. That's why I haven't bonded them together yet. Because if I can get away with using just one, I will do that. It's just the variation, the cabin top of the mast step is, the piece of teak that was there originally was kind of shaped underneath, and I'll probably have to do the same with this, shape it underneath a little bit to get it to sit square on top. And if I can get away with doing that in one piece, I will, but if it takes two, then I'll have two prepped ready to do that. It's going to pivot this way to be in the down position, like that, and then when you lift it back up, raise it back up again, it's going to come around like that, and just clear that piece there and coming on top and sit on top of that, where this piece of HDPE will be. So in the bottom of the mast itself, I'm going to cut a piece of this up and fit it tightly into the bottom profile of the mast and have it project out a little bit, so then that'll be a bearing surface onto this surface here, so that when the two mate together, when it comes up in the upright position, it'll be a tight fit, push in, and then that'll be, you know, carried on that bearing surface there, rather than having the profile of the mast sitting down on this HDPE. It'll be kind of scoring it and won't really get a good bearing on it because you'll be relying on the outside edge of the mast profile itself, whereas with the pad inside it, you'll get a good, you know, steady bearing surface across the whole surface of it. And it can be pretty tight tolerances, I think, because this stuff is pretty slippy stuff, and it'll not be a problem if I have to push it in tight to get it to. I'll make it as tight as possible. If I have to, you know, grind it down or sand it down a little bit, as you've seen with me prep this stuff here, it's not that hard to do. These tools will work to grind it down. So if I make it tight tolerance as possible and see if I can get it to fit in, well and good if it works the first time. If not, I just tilt it forward, sand it a little bit, try it again, and just keep doing that until I get it to fit really tight and snug onto it. I thought about making some kind of a slot here, and then the base piece making a projection sticking down to have that, you know, lock in place. It'll be, you know, really locked into the one location, so a location point. But the only problem with that, thinking about it, is what if I have to move the mast a little bit within the tabernacle, you know, to get it to sit square and straight. So I'll be doing that with spacers on the bolts or bar that's going through this to hold it in place. So if I made that locking position, I wouldn't have that facility to move it even slightly backwards and forwards. So that's probably not a great idea to do that. Not in this application. So that's what I'm going to do. just a bearing surface, pad in the bottom of the mast, this in the bottom of the tabernacle, and the two will join up together. So that's it. That's how far I am on with that. I did a bit more work on this actual tabernacle itself. You may notice it looks a bit cleaner than the last time you saw it. I ground out the welds in the back here and re-welded them and ground it down again. Went over the whole thing with the flap wheel. I also ground out a slot on both sides on the bottom and then welded in that, filled that in with weld just to make it a bit stronger. It was already strong enough, but I could do it. There was no reason not to do it, so I did it. And if it's 10 times stronger than it needs to be, fantastic. Okay, so not a great deal of massive progress forward, but all these component parts all add up into a finished boat, so they're all very important. They all take a little bit of time, and each one moves the project forward a little bit. So if you've enjoyed watching this video, please remember to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.